All right, what's up, everyone? It's Zach, and today I'm here with a very special guest. I'm here with my good friend Dylan Elgas. Dylan, how are you doing today?
Hey Zach, I'm doing real well. Thank you
Good.
for asking. How are you?
Glad to hear it. Doing well. Thanks for asking, and thanks for taking some time to chat today.
Of course. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, anytime. So Dylan, cool thing about him is that he is a health coach and extremely passionate and knowledgeable on pretty much everything, health, fitness, exercise, all that good stuff that I'm really passionate about myself. So, I'm super excited to hear what Dylan has to say today. But that's kind of a little bit about Dylan. But do you mind sharing who you are, what you do, your background, all that good stuff about you?
Yeah. I think one of the better places for me to kind of go is share a little bit of my story,
Yeah,
how I got to where I am. Um, so, like Zach said, I'm a health coach, and that is, in my opinion, 100% a result of the fact that I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was 13 years old. And growing up dealing with the limitations and just the medical things that kind of are involved with that process, I eventually learned that maybe I do need to kind of care about the things that I do with my body and the things that I put into my body and the things that I put on my body, including we don't have to get too crazy, but like fragrances and soaps and all those different kinds of things that you're using, right? Um,
hmm
so that kind of sparked that journey for me, and I really fell in love with the process of making those advancements in my own life. But then not only in my own life, but I enjoyed educating people on how we can manipulate our lifestyles to be more conducive for health. And that kind of brought me to where I am today.
that's awesome. No, I love it, and something that's really cool, and someone listening, you probably don't know this about Dylan, especially if you haven't met him, but he's really smart. He's a really smart guy just in general. And I remember, growing up being in classes together, just kind of seeing that knowledge shine in like an academic setting. So then when I saw Dylan kind of dive into the things he's mentioned with his passion and his journey, like it just been really cool to see how quickly you absorb the information and just like I feel like each year you're just learning more and more and like I just love talking to you and like seeing what you're what you're following now or what you've learned recently. I just feel like the
Yeah.
wealth of knowledge is always there.
Yeah, thank you. Some could call it a little bit of an obsession.
It's fair.
I would even define it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's actually my preferred method for learning has always been to just when I find something that I truly am interested to learn more about, I almost just lock myself in a room for like 3 days and just consume
Yeah.
information. Um, and then I come out of that room a brand new brain.
I love it. I
And
love it.
that's kind of always been how it's worked. I get really into whatever the topic is that I'm passionate about at the time, or
Yeah.
in this specific circumstance with what I plan to do with my career and all that. It's just deeper and deeper layers to the question of what is human health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And, just in kind of telling your story, I think you shared things about human health that people don't really think about on a regular basis, right? I mean, like if you go to a mall and just walk around and ask people what like human health is, I'm sure people will say like, oh, what you eat or like how much you weigh or, do you work out? But there's so much more that goes into it.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And you know this pretty well now based on us having multiple different discussions. But I'm always gonna be drawn back to the evolutionary biology question, just because I think it provides us with so much insight, and it's really a guideline for how we should be living our lives, right?
Yeah.
We are products of evolution. We are products of billions of years of evolution, and um, only within the last few hundred have we decided to dramatically alter the way that we live our lives. And as a
hmm
result, we start to see increasing health complications. And I think the answer is right there. How do we become healthier on a,
hmm
on a large scale? Well, I'm not saying that we're going to be able to go back to being hunters and gatherers or anything like that, but
Sure.
we have to try and simulate those lifestyles as much as possible. The way that those ancient humans moved, the way that those ancient humans ate, the way that those ancient humans slept, that those are kind of the answers. We've been given the answers, right?
Right. So, to address that, Dylan, people in general, just generalization here, people in the world were not always the most healthy. And like you said, we kind of know what we could do to make ourselves healthier. Like we've kind of gone away with evolution from like what would give us more optimal human health.
Mhm.
So why do you think that is the case? Just because of technology and just convenience and stuff like that? We just are less prone to do the things that we probably should do more of?
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head there, right? Convenience.
Okay.
Like we no longer have to search for our food, right? So like we just have to drive 10 minutes to the grocery store. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So we don't have to climb a tree or run after an animal to get our food anymore. We just pick it from a shelf. So our movement variability has decreased quite a bit just from those specific examples. Um, the way that we kind of get things done in society now, like the advancements made, oftentimes our advancements are no longer us building things. For some people, it still is building things, but for majority of us, it's sitting at a desk,
Right.
working on a laptop or a computer,
Right.
and just those variables are taking away from the precious time that we could spend moving and using our brains in other ways. But um, uh, yeah, that's kind of where I was going with that
Okay.
one.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you mentioned the idea of sitting behind a desk or sitting at a desk and working, and that really resonated with me. Right now I'm currently with being in school, I'm working for my university, so I'm spending, maybe 8, 9 hours a day, just sitting at a desk, working on a computer, doing work that way. And I feel like I've just noticed like just feeling different. My body feels different, or I just feel more stiff or sore. And
Right.
it's one of those things where I'm just like, man, like I feel like you don't really realize how much of an impact something like that could have on your body until like you start feeling it.
Certainly, certainly, and a lot of times, it's that one's you don't notice it until it's been a very, very long time, or
Mm,
until you actually do kind of make a little bit of an adjustment, and then you kind of lose that adjustment once again, right? So, like,
yeah.
you've been a student for a long time and you didn't really have an exercise regimen, and then
Hmm.
you implemented an exercise regimen, and then for some reason you kind of fell off the bandwagon there.
Sure.
Um, that's going to lead to you kind of feeling a little bit of that stiffness much more frequently.
Yeah.
And like I said, like we're not going to be able to go back to those hunters and gatherers times, so it's very much we kind of have to think of strategies of how we can implement movement throughout our day,
Hmm.
even though our day might be spent at a computer, right? Like
Yeah.
those hours spent at a computer, spent studying for school, like those are non-negotiable hours. Like
Right.
I can't reasonably expect someone to give that up,
Right.
right? So there's got to be strategies that are
Hmm.
implemented to help combat that, regular occurrence of no movement.
Yeah, definitely. I think that that's a great point, and that kind of addresses like the movement aspect of it, and we've kind of talked about with the diet portion, what we're fueling our bodies with, and that goes back to the convenience factor. So, Dylan, let me ask you this: like, let's say you're talking to an individual, and something that I feel like just a lot of us, including myself, say at times like, I'm too busy. I'm too busy to do this. I'm
Hmm.
too busy to do that. So, like, to the average person that's working full time or they're a full time student, they're super busy. Do
Hmm.
you have any like simple starter almost suggestions of strategies that we could be making?
I'm a big fan of the 2 minute rule or the 2 minute drill.
Okay.
Um, so because we can do anything for 2 minutes, it doesn't matter
Yep.
how busy we are, right? We can find 2 minutes to do anything.
Yep.
So if it is something that you are actually interested in implementing into your life, um, adding in the 2 minute drill is a really good idea, right? So if it's 2 minutes of um, hip focused just movement. Just you just sit on the floor and you just consciously move your hips. set a timer for 2 minutes and then just go, right? And do that
Okay.
on a regular basis. You're going to have some days where 2 minutes kind of seems like, oh man, I really have to go through this right now.
Mhm.
And then you're gonna have the other days where you kind of get into it a little bit. After you've been spending a little bit of time, you've experienced a little bit of moving your hips, and then you kind of spend the next 10, 15, 20 minutes just flowing with your
Yeah.
hips, right? So and we can use that for a lot of different things, right? That doesn't just have to be movement. If you wanted to learn any new skill, that's going to be a valuable strategy. It's a 2 minute drill.
Yeah, so essentially 2-minute drill, just spend 2 minutes a just 1 time a day, 2 minutes doing something like that? Doing something
Yeah, yeah,
intentional?
to start off,
Okay.
right? Like, it's just like brushing your teeth, right? You brush your teeth
Right.
twice in the morning or, 2 minutes in the morning, 2 minutes in the evening, and then somehow that is all you need to keep your teeth white. I mean, I know there's other things that go into it, but,
Right. But just
like,
kinda
you don't
building that
need to
habit.
brush your teeth 60 minutes every single
Right.
day.
Right. Okay. Okay. Very cool. And now, you mentioned that with your diagnosis of MS, that's kind of what, you know, kind of led you down this journey. And then you said a big part of it and kind of where you're currently at is to educate others and to help others. Um, did that come pretty natural to you, or were you just kind of like, well, since I know this information about myself now, and to help kind of myself benefit, I want to give back to people. I want to help people. Where did that kind of like coaching come from?
Actually, that's a great question. That's a really good question. I think, and I guess I don't really have a ton of evidence to back this up, but I mean, maybe. Um, I've always been someone who learns best by kind of regurgitating what I've learned,
Okay.
if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like I was always really good at math, but
Right.
the best way for me to consolidate what I learned was to then go home and teach my math homework to my parents,
Okay.
right? And that just solidified that information in my brain. And I think that's kind of what really began the coaching aspect is I would learn this new thing about health and fitness, and then I
Mm-hmm.
would go share it with like whoever I was talking about at the gym, and they would, wires would or like lights would turn on, and you'd see
Yep.
it, and people were like, "Oh yeah, like that makes sense," and like I'm going to implement that in my next workout, or I'm going to implement that in my like dietary protocol, or whatever
Mm-hmm.
it might be. And after just accumulating a lot of people that then were seeking me out for advice, I started to realize like, hey, maybe there is an opportunity here for me to do this to make some actual money.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's I can attest from, knowing you for a while that it seems like, when you can kind of teach through regurgitating the information, like you said, it really helps you
Hmm.
learn and solidify that knowledge.
Hmm. Hmm. And
Okay.
I think there are a lot of people out there that learn like that, but not
Yeah.
everyone learns like that, right? Some people find it very difficult to learn that way, and it just happened to be, one of the ways that I learned. So I figured, why not take advantage of it, use it to its full extent,
Definitely. No, I love that, taking advantage of kind of what works for you and
right?
really just going with it.
Yeah,
Um,
I got a weird brain, might as well, get
there
used to
you
it.
go. There you go. So, Dylan, we kind of talk about how, you're a coach. We don't really I don't really hear you call yourself, or I don't really refer to you as a trainer. It's more so as just like a health coach.
Mhm.
Is there some intentionality behind that, or is that just kind of like why go with that language
Yeah,
over
yeah,
trainer?
yeah. So I think there's a couple different things. I think a lot of times you hear the word trainer and you think it's specific to exercise,
Hmm.
right? Whereas with my intentions behind being a coach and being an educator, I'm going to not just address the exercise component, I'm also going to talk to you about diet and sleep and every other thing that is possibly going on in your life.
Yeah.
I'm not going to claim that I'm an expert, but I am going to claim that I have, quite a bit of experience, right? And so that's kind of where the distinction between coach and trainer comes from, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
I have other philosophies behind that as well. I don't think trainers get the best reputation. I think a lot of trainers are pegged as uneducated, and that's something I'm pretty passionate about is changing the dialogue there. Um, But yeah, mostly it's the all-encompassing aspect of what I do.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And kind of with that all-encompassing aspect, and you mentioned a few different of the aspects just then and throughout this conversation, like, is there anything that relates to health that you think gets very commonly overlooked by people?
100% sleep.
Okay.
100% sleep. We view it as this time where just nothing happens
Mm-hmm.
during our lives, and we think that the easiest way to get more done with our life is to sacrifice the amount of time that we quote unquote do are spending doing nothing, right?
Right.
When in reality, when we sleep deprive ourselves, we see a significant decrease in educate or academic performance, athletic performance,
Yeah.
everything. We make worse decisions. We gain weight. Our hormones get out of check. Like everything starts to fall apart when we sacrifice our sleep. Yet it's the first thing that we sacrifice when we get busy.
Yep.
So to answer your question, sleep is definitely, in my opinion, the most overlooked aspect of our health.
Yeah, I think that that's, a really good thing to bring attention to and something that, I mean, I know I'm guilty of overlooking, and I think, a lot of students too, especially kind of getting the mentality early on where it's like, well, let me just pull an all-nighter and cram information.
Hmm.
And then I feel like that's when you actually are damaging yourself more because it's like, if you get that good night's sleep, you're probably going to feel cognitively, better and more focused
Right.
for the exam or whatever the case is.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of preparation. Again, it's this time
Hmm.
where we imagine ourselves as really doing nothing, and it takes a
Right.
lot of preparation to be good at sleeping.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, and that's another reason. Going back to your previous question about coaching versus training,
Hmm.
that's another reason why I would like to call myself a coach is because there's not really like you hear of like personal trainers or fitness trainers, and you hear of like nutrition coaches. You
Hmm.
never really hear of like a sleep coach,
No.
or a
No.
sleep trainer, or you know what I mean. So like
Right.
I like to bundle that into my my expertise or my recommendations with people.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it's super important. And yeah, it's really funny when you say it like that. Like, you don't hear about people talking about like, a sleep coach or,
Right.
anything like that. Like, I think I've maybe heard like sleep doctor, but I don't know if that was like as a,
Right, and that those are probably people who are, like, analyzing,
yeah,
way more specific things than I'm gonna
right,
refer to.
right. So, I mean, yeah, it's just, it's funny when you kind of, I think just with so many things in life, it's like if you say out loud kind of like what it is, it almost sounds like silly, but it's like, yeah, that's so necessary. Or like, why don't we have that, or why is that not like more
Right,
common?
right, yeah, yeah, why is that aspect being overlooked?
Exactly. Yeah. So, Dylan, something that like we've talked about outside of this recording that I just wanted to kind of touch on real quick is like, do you mind, sharing kind of the coaching philosophy that you have when it comes to like kind of the relationship that you want to have with your client and kind of like what the expectation is. Do you get what I'm getting at?
Yeah, do you mind, kind of digging a little further? 'Cause, yeah, I have a few different philosophies.
Yeah, so kind of like the one where you've talked to me like, just outside of this about how, you want to equip people with the knowledge. You don't want
Ah,
to,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
you know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. So when it comes to coaching and working with myself, I'm not someone who wants to create a lifetime dependent client, right? I used to tell people that my full intentions are for you to work with me for 3 to 6 months, and then you do not need me as a coach anymore after that. You have the knowledge of how to move your body and how to exercise, and you've learned a lot about nutrition and sleep, and you're equipped with these tools, and you can go ahead and move on and do those things yourself. But I've since changed that philosophy, and I now tell people if you give me 2 years, I'll be able to send you into any gym within a 10-mile radius, and you'll be the most knowledgeable coach there. So that is my
Yeah.
promise to my clients.
I love that. I think it's so cool. And, I think that having a coach can be a tough decision for people in terms
Mhm.
of just the investment that it costs. And
100%.
I think it could almost feel like a trap for some people where
Mhm.
it's like I'm just paying, monthly or whatever for this or yearly, and I'm just like it's helpful, but as soon as I stop paying and I don't have this coach anymore, like I'm just gonna fall off the wagon of whatever they've helped me with because like I don't know anything, like I'm not learning
Right.
anything. I'm just, following an instruction book.
Yeah, and along with that, I believe that there are three reasons why people hire coaches.
Okay.
One reason being that they don't really know what they're doing when it comes to exercise, sleep, and nutrition.
Hmm.
And that's a great reason to hire a coach. A coach should be able to teach you all those things relatively quickly.
Yeah.
That's where I was kind of talking about that first. My first philosophy was in those first 3 to 6 months, that information is easily learned, right,
Yep.
and easily taught. But accountability is a second reason why people hire coaches.
Okay.
Just because I totally understand this one. Sometimes it takes you paying a bill to make sure that you're going to show up somewhere,
Yeah.
right? Or having someone who is expecting you at a specific time for you to actually show up and do the thing. So accountability is a great reason to hire a coach if that's something you struggle with. And the third reason why I think people hire coaches is they just enjoy the vibe. They dig the vibe, they dig the
Hmm.
community, they dig everything about the environment, right? And that's something that I don't think can necessarily be overlooked, right? Like even if your your digging the vibe is just going to Planet Fitness and you enjoy being around those people,
Hmm.
that is going to be a great reason for you to belong to Planet Fitness or fill in the blank with whatever facility or person
Sure.
that you're working with, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I like all three of those, reasons, and I think they all make a lot of sense. And maybe that might be the answer that I'm kind of looking for in this question. But I kind of mentioned how it can be maybe daunting, or the investment financially can be tough for people.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, do you have any thoughts on that, or like,
I have a lot of thoughts on
okay,
that.
yeah,
um, yeah, number one, I do think, health, this is something that I'm actually quite passionate about. I think a lot of us, especially humans being in the 21st century, in specifically the United States, we are inundated with just everything you can imagine on how to become worse at being a human and how to
okay,
become unhealthy.
yeah,
That stuff is basically just jammed down our throat our entire lives.
hmm,
Um, like even when it comes to how frequently we are sitting, how little exercise is being asked of us, how poorly our sleep schedules become, the food options that are advertised to us through media sources on a very regular basis, right?
hmm,
Everything is teaching us how to become unhealthy almost around the clock. And then it's a very big ask of me to then tell an individual who is looking to become healthy that, hey, in order for you to become healthy, it's going to cost you $500 a month to work with me.
yeah,
That just creates one more barrier for entry for an individual to, actually jumpstart that process.
right.
So that is something that I would like to in the future be able to eliminate is that, I believe everyone should be able to have access to a coach. And I'm not quite there yet, but that is a goal of mine.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I have no doubt that, you said that's a goal of yours. So, knowing you, if you set a goal, I'm very confident. I would bet that you will accomplish it. And
Thank you. I appreciate
yeah, of
that.
course. And I think that that's a great goal to have. I mean, I think it's, you know, we're all humans, so we deserve to live healthy, happy,
Hmm.
health optimal lives. So I don't think it should be kind of like, there should be a barrier to entry to it. I think it should be
Right.
accessible for everyone. And, certainly I'd love to see you kind of lead that charge, but I don't think that should be something that solely you have to, take
Right.
on your shoulders. I think
100%.
everyone should buy into that and,
Yeah.
make do their part to kind of help make
That's
this more of the
that
norm.
I have a great idea, there, but and I'm not afraid to talk about it because I want competition from that perspective, right? Like I don't want to be the only one trying to make everyone healthy for less.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because if it's just me, then I'm not going to be able to reach as many people.
Yeah. I love that. And that's a great mentality. And I think that like, something kind of like a similar thing that makes me think of that is like I feel like growing up, whether it was in school or sports team or at work or whatever, I'd always want to be the best. And
Mhm.
I wouldn't want to necessarily, I wouldn't sabotage anyone else, but I wouldn't want to necessarily like help them or teach them what I know
Mhm.
because there's like that fear of, oh, they're going to be better than me then.
Mhm.
But I think that as I've gotten older, I've seen like there's no reason we can't all succeed together.
100%.
Like don't hold each other back or anything.
100%.
Yeah,
And I totally agree with you there. I definitely want to be, like the best that I can be, but
sure.
when it comes to being the best at being a coach in the entire world, that just sounds exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do hope to be one of the best, right?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, I think that that's admirable and totally, a good goal to set. But at the same time, just knowing that, you want to, like you said, talk about it, and talk about what you envision and what you think is possible, and get other people to maybe buy into it, other coaches to buy into it. So, yeah, that might increase competition for you, but I think more so for you, just knowing you personally, you care more about the community than maybe making a couple extra dollars than
Very
coach
much so.
B. Yeah.
Yeah, very much. And that's a great place to kind of go. Just because of my condition with
Hmm.
autoimmune and multiple sclerosis, that's giving back is definitely something that I'm interested in doing in the future. Is bridging that gap between doctor and patient, just because
Yeah.
the doctor knows a lot of things that are going to be beneficial for this patient, but they can't always spend the amount of time that's necessary with the patient, and that's something that I have the ability to do.
Hmm.
So I would love to create an opportunity to where I can still value my time while simultaneously helping individuals who actually need the help.
That's amazing, man. I love it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So, Dylan, one of the last things that I just want to ask you real quick about is, you've touched on throughout the conversation about, your experience a little bit with MS and everything. And, since that diagnosis to now, it's been, you said 13-ish?
Uh, I was 13 years old, so it's approaching 13. It's been 12 and a half.
Okay. Okay. So 12 and a half, 13 years, since that diagnosis, when you really kind of dove into the knowledge and taking care of your own health and your body, how's things been going, if you don't mind me asking? Like, do you feel like you're in a good place with it? I know, like, off the record, we've talked, and you kind of thought, like, that diagnosis just, like, the way that you felt was just how you'd be forever, Do you feel like
Yeah,
you're in a
for
good
for a
place now?
long time, sorry to cut you off
Oh,
there.
you good?
For a long time there, I did think that, I started developing joint pain and
Mm-hmm.
like a little bit of chronic fatigue at the age of 18 years old, and I thought that, maybe this is how I'm gonna feel for the rest of my life, and woke up one day and said, you know what, screw that. There's got to be something I can do, and
Yeah.
that was kind of what kickstarted that obsessive nature.
Yeah.
And so now, man, I feel great. I It's I've never felt better, I guess, is the
That's
easiest
good.
and most simple way to explain it. Just kind of trying to focusing on the controllables, controlling the controllables is,
Mm-hmm.
what's really helped me.
That's awesome, man. I love hearing that. It is someone that's fortunate enough to call you a friend. It's great to hear that you feel like you're in the best place, you've been, and just feeling great overall. And with your, drive and knowledge, I'm sure that, a year from now, you're probably going to feel even better. You're going to keep learning more things and implementing different strategies into your life to continue to optimize your health. So I'm excited to see where you are even a year from now, but just to follow along with that journey.
Thank you, man. I appreciate
Yeah.
that, and I hope so too. I hope, because if I've figured it all out right now,
Hmm.
then the next 50 years are going to be pretty boring.
Right, right. There's always more to learn, and I know that
Exactly.
you have that thirst for knowledge, so it'll be cool to see.
Hmm.
So Dylan, to anyone that's listening here today, if they want to follow along with your journey, maybe see kind of what you have to offer in terms of coaching, or just, you put a lot of good tidbits out into social media. What's the best place for people to find you and connect with you at?
The best place for people to reach me is I'm most active on Instagram, so you
Okay.
can find me at coach_Dylan_Elgas. That's COACH_DYLAN_ELGAS.
Okay. Perfect. So I will also put that in the description. So anyone listening, just click down there, find Dylan's Instagram that way. But yeah, I mean, Dylan's a great guy. So even if you're just like, hey, you mentioned this like evolutionary health thing. What's that about? I'm sure
Yeah,
Dylan
yeah, that
would
was we
love.
touched on that one pretty briefly. So if you would love to
Yeah,
learn more about evolution, that is my true passion.
it
Feel
is.
free
I
to
can
reach out
attest to
to me.
that.
Feel free to reach out to me. That's one that I could talk your ear off about.
Yeah, and I will say it is really interesting information. So definitely, don't be a stranger if you want to connect with Dylan, learn more about anything that he's talked about, or just kind of follow along with his journey. Definitely check him out on Instagram. Definitely worth your follow. But Dylan, is there any kind of last thoughts, words, message that you want to share to anyone that's listening today?
Ooh, that's a great question. That really is a great question. I'm, as someone who does, live with a chronic disease, my biggest piece of advice for everyone out there, is don't wait until you develop a chronic disease to start caring about your health. An ounce of intervention or an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
That's really good. That's really powerful. It's
Yeah, yeah.
important.
I butchered it a little bit there, but
That's
hopefully,
okay.
hopefully you made it across.
It's okay. It's still you still got the point across, and I
Yeah,
think
there
it's
we
so
go.
important. And just kind of just in general, be proactive.
Mhm, mhm.
Don't wait till it's too late. Whether it's about your own health or a loved one's health, if you can address it earlier on, or make little tweaks, little changes here and there, I think that's in the long run, it'll be very beneficial to your health.
Certainly.
Awesome. Well, Dylan, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for coming on and having a great conversation. Like I said, super excited to see what the future has in store for you. I know it's going to be some great things, and I'm excited to be a part of the journey with you. Of
Thank you, Zach. I appreciate that, and thank you for having me on your podcast.
course, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Later, Zach.
See ya.